Okay, the reading for this week is the next part in our series on Chinese civilization and culture. It's an essay by the Zen Buddhist monk Linji Yixuan, and the essay is titled "Seeing into One's Own Nature," and the English translation is taken from William Theodore DeBerry and Irene Bloom's Sources of Chinese Tradition, Volume 1. I'll put the link to that below so you can purchase the whole book and read the essay in full. I think this is just an excerpt from the essay, and as always, it's included in this PDF worksheet that I will provide in the description below, compiled by somebody at Columbia University, and we'll be using these worksheets for this class. Okay, Lin Yixuan died in 867. Okay, was a Chan, or Zen, as we say in Buddhism. Remember, Zen in Japanese is a translation or the pronunciation of the Chinese character Chang. So Linji Yixuan was a Chan Buddhist monk of the late Tang Dynasty. And remember, Tang Dynasty begins in 618, ends in 907. If you haven't memorized the dates for these major dynasties yet, go to my Chinese dynasty video and memorize that song immediately. I'll put the link to that in the description as well. So Linji Yixuan was a Chan Buddhist monk from the late Tang Dynasty. Like all schools of Buddhism, the Chan school taught that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature within them, and that enlightenment, or satori as we say in Japanese, is achieved by truly recognizing one's own true nature, i.e. the Buddha nature of being enlightened. The Chan school, the Zen school, as we say in Japanese, taught that enlightenment comes suddenly, in a flash of spiritual insight. So this emphasis on suddenness, sudden enlightenment, is one of the core features of Chan Buddhism that contrasts it from other earlier schools of Buddhism. The Chan school taught that enlightenment comes suddenly in a flash of spiritual insight, and the monk Yixuan, better known as Linji, after the small temple in Hebei province where he moved in 851, was the founder of what became known as the Linji, or Rinzai as we say in Japanese, school of Buddhism. So the Zen Buddhism broke into several factions, one of which is Rinzai as we say in Japanese, and this originates with the author of this essay. Linji's teaching of his disciples was characterized by shoutings and beatings administered suddenly and in such a way as to shock the student out of his everyday consciousness and thus precipitate the sudden flash of insight in which the student would realize his own true nature. Okay, so when I lived in Wakejuku in Tokyo, and when I first came to Japan as a Tokubetsu Kenkyuin, a special researcher at Waseda University, at the dorm I was staying, a Rinzai Zen Buddhist priest would come regularly and do Zen sessions with us, readings and meditations and so forth, and we'd all meditate facing the wall, and he would walk around with a stick and beat us with the stick. And this tradition, this custom, originates from with Linji. Okay, so keep that in mind as we read this essay. Okay, in the sermon below, delivered before an assembly of monks and laymen, Linji explains the concept of seeing into one's own nature. All right. And as always, these worksheets provide a shorter, abridged version of the essay, and the longer one, I'll read the longer one. And starting with the study questions that we'll discuss more in class. Question number 1, what concrete actions does Linji suggest to those teaching enlightenment? Why? Question 2, if seeking enlightenment on the outside is for imbeciles, then where does one seek enlightenment, according to Linji? Question 3, what sort of religious practices would a follower of Linji find rewarding? How would these contrast to the religious practices of some of the other major world religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam? So a comparative religions studies question in that last one. Okay, here's the essay now. Seeing into one's own nature. The master addressed the assembly, quote, "Followers of the way, the law of the Buddha has no room for elaborate activity. It is only everyday life with nothing to do. Evacuate. Pass your water. Put on your clothes. Eat your food. If you are tired, lie down. The fool will laugh, but the wise man will understand. A man of old has said, those who practice meditation seeking things on the outside are all imbeciles. So underline this, on the outside. What does he mean by things on the outside here, and why is he criticizing it? If you make yourself master in all circumstances, any place you stand will be the true one. In whatever environment you find yourself, you cannot be changed. You encounter evil influences. Yet even the 5 violations, because these are the 5 violations of Buddhism, namely killing the father, mother, or arhat. And the arhat is like the wise sage in Buddhist cosmology. So killing or doing harm to the body of the Buddha, or introducing disharmony into the monastic community. Those are the 5 violations. You encounter evil influences, yet even the 5 violations that lead to the nethermost hell will of themselves form the great sea of deliverance. So deliverance, salvation into the other world, that other side, into the world, into Nehang, Nirvana. Students today do not know the law. They are like half-blind sheep who gobble up anything that comes close to their noses. They cannot distinguish between slave and master, guest and host. People such as these enter the way. So here, note that we see the way not only in Taoism and Confucianism, but also in Buddhism, of course. They enter the way. People such as these enter the way, the Tao, with deluded minds, and become involved in confused and crowded places. One cannot call them true monks who have left their homes. They are really nothing but laymen. Monks who have left their homes must be aware of what true understanding is. They must distinguish Buddha and demon, true and false, sacred and profane. If they are aware in this way, then they can be called true monks who have left their homes. If they cannot distinguish Buddha and demon, it is as if they had left one ordinary home only to enter another. Such people are called karma-creating beings. They cannot yet be called true monks who have left their homes. Suppose one had a single Buddha demon, indistinguishable in one body, like milk and water mixed together. It is only the king of geese who can drink the milk and leave the water. Followers of the way with a clear eye destroy both Buddha and demon. If you love the sacred and hate the profane, you will continue floating and sinking in the sea of birth and death. Okay, the sea of samsara, the sea of the cycle of birth and death. Someone asked, what is this Buddha demon? Okay, so that was the end of his sermon, and then somebody asked him, what is this Buddha demon? The master said, a single moment of doubt on your part is the Buddha demon. Once you realize that all things are not produced, the mind too is like an illusion. And without a single speck of dust, it is at all times pure. This is the Buddha. Moreover, Buddha and demon are the 2 states, purity and impurity. In my view, there is no Buddha, no sentient being, no past, no present. Whatever you gain, and there's no need to spend time. There is nothing to practice, nothing to prove, nothing to obtain, nothing to lose. At all times there is no other thing. And even if there were something else, I say that it would be nothing but a dream and an illusion. Everything I've been talking about just comes to this. Continuing, he says, followers of the way, that person who is standing before me, namely you, resolute and clear, listening to my sermon, gets bogged down nowhere. He penetrates in all directions, and throughout the 3 worlds is everywhere free. Underline the 3 worlds, we'll go over that later, Sankai in Japanese Buddhist terminology. Although he enters into the differentiations of all things, he cannot be changed. Within one moment he penetrates the Dharma world. So the Dharma world, the kanji for Dharma, of course, is fa, or horitsu, law. In Japanese, Dharma is the Buddhist law, the Buddhist way. Within one moment, he penetrates the fa, the Dharma world, the Bukbo. in Japanese. When he meets a Buddha, he preaches to that Buddha. When he meets a patriarch, he preaches to that patriarch. When he meets a hungry ghost, so hungry ghost, underline that, we'll go over this later, the gaki, so we say in Japanese. When he meets a gaki or hungry ghost, he preaches to that ghost. In any land he travels, although he devotes himself to the conversion of sentient beings, he never for a moment is apart from his understanding. All places are pure, and his light penetrates in all directions, and all things are one. Okay, continuing, he says, followers of the way, the resolute man must know right now that from the outset there is nothing to do. But because your faith is insufficient, from moment to moment you rush about seeking. So seeking is bad, doing things is bad. You throw away your heads, and then go looking for them, and are yourselves unable to stop. Even the perfect immediate bodhisattva, so the highest rank of bodhisattva, just before the Nyorai. Remember, Nyorai ranks above bodhisattva, bosatsu in Japanese. Even the perfect immediate bosatsu or bodhisattva, when he makes his appearance in the Dharma world, looks to the pure land, the Jodo in Japanese we say, despises the profane and seeks the sacred. Those such as he have yet to forget both taking and throwing away. Their minds are still involved with uncleanliness and purity. This is not the view of the Chan sect. So the Chan sect, the Zen sect. This is not the view of the Zen sect, the Rinzai sect that he is founding. At once everything is the present. Indeed, there is no time. Even what I have been preaching to you is no more than medicine used temporarily to cure a disease. So this idea of expedient means, or hoben, we say in Japanese. There is no such thing as a fixed principle. If you understand this, you are a true monk who has left his home, able to enjoy 10,000 gold coins a day. Continuing, he says, followers of the way do not go about haphazardly accepting the sanction of any old master, saying, I understand Chen, I understand the way, I understand Zen, I understand the Tao. Even when your eloquence be like a rushing torrent, it will be nothing but hell-producing karma. Okay, karma is go in Japanese, the kanji gyo, ko. If you are a true student of the way, of the Tao, you will not look to the faults of the world, but will single-mindedly seek true understanding. Once you have achieved this true understanding and made it clear, then for the first time everything will have been completed. Somebody asked him then in the audience, what is true understanding? The master said, quote, you enter the profane, enter the sacred, enter impurity, enter purity. Enter the various Buddha worlds, enter the palace of Maitreya, enter the world of Vairocana. Underline these words, Maitreya and Vairocana. We'll go over them later in class, and I'll provide the Japanese, the Chinese characters for these two terms in the description below. Enter the palace of Maitreya, enter the world of Vairocana, and everywhere all these worlds appear, they are established, exist, decay, and perish into nothingness. The Buddha appeared in this world, turned the wheel of the law, and later entered nirvana, or nehang, as we say in Japanese, but his past and future cannot be seen. Thus, seeking his birth and death is to no avail. Therefore, entering the world of no birth and no destruction and traveling about it everywhere, you enter the world of the lotus treasury. See the emptiness of things, underline emptiness, keyword that we'll go over in class, and know that all things are unreal. It is only the man who listens to the fa, the whole, the law, and is not conditioned by anything, who is the mother of all Buddhas. Therefore, the Buddha was produced from the non-conditioned. If you awaken to this non-conditioned, Buddha is then something that need not be attained. So this non-conditioned is important. Underline it here. I'm reminded of, in Christian theology, the non-conditioned ground of being is a phrase that people often use to describe Yahweh, God. The non-conditioned ground of being, and I think he's talking about something similar here. If you awaken to this non-conditioned, Buddha is then something that need not be attained. Once you're aware of this, This is then true understanding. Students do not, continuing, he says, students do not understand, attached to words and phrases, and because they are blocked by terms such as sacred and profane, these dualities or binaries, they're blocked by them. Their eye of wisdom is obscured and they cannot gain awakening. Things like the 12 divisions of the teachings are but obvious explanations. Students do not know this and thus base their understandings on such things. Because they depend on them, they fall into cause and effect, inga in Japanese. They fall into cause and effect and are unable to escape birth and death, the cycle, the samsara cycle of birth and death. They're unable to escape it, to gedatsu from it, as we say in Japanese, to escape the cycle, gedatsu, and are unable to escape birth and death in the three worlds, the sankai. If you wish to attain freedom in moving through the world of birth and death, then know the man who right now is listening to the law, the fa, the whole, the dharma. He is without shape, without characteristics, without root, without basis, yet always brisk and lively. There is no trace of the activity of all his main devices. If you try to find him, he is far away. If you seek him, he goes against you. Given a name, this is mystery. Continuing, followers of the way do not acknowledge this dream-like illusory world, for sooner or later death will come. Just what is it that you are seeking in this world that you think will give you emancipation? Go out into the world, and seeking only the barest minimum of food, make do with it. Spend your time in the shabbiest garments, and go to visit a good teacher. Do not heedlessly seek after pleasure. Time is precious and things change with each moment. In their grosser aspects, they are subject to the four elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. In their more detailed aspects, they are subject to the incessant oppression of the four states, birth, existence, change, and death. Followers of the way, followers of the Tao, come to know the states of the four kinds of non-form, and keep yourself from being swayed by environment. Okay, non-form is a key word here. Underline it, mushiki in Japanese. The kanji is for color, so without color, but color in the Buddhist context often means form. So non-form, mushiki. In Chinese, what is it? Wusi, something like that. Someone asked in the audience, raised his hand and said, what are the stakes of the four kinds of non-form, or mushiki? The master said, with a single instant of doubt in your mind, so a single instant, keep in mind, underline that, this notion of suddenness, of instantness is emphasized in Linji Zen, and Zen in general, and Linji especially. The master answered this pupil, with a single instant of doubt in your mind, the element earth comes and impedes you. With a single instant of love in your mind, water comes and drowns you. With a single instant of anger in your mind, fire comes and burns you. With a single instant of joy in your mind, wind comes and shakes you. If you understand this well, you will not be swayed by the things around you, and everywhere you will be able to take advantage of your environment. You may rise in the east and set in the west, rise in the south and set in the north, yet in the center and set on the borders, rise on the borders and set in the center. There's a footnote about that passage there. What does it say here? An allusion to the 6 different kinds of shakings of the universe when the Buddha entered into the samadhi, or joyful wandering. All right. You may walk on water as if it were land, and walk on land as if it were water. Why is this so? It is because you have realized that the 4 elements are nothing but a dream and an illusion. Okay, underline the 4 elements. We'll go over them in more detail in class. Followers of the way, he continues, you who are listening to the Fa, to the Law, to the Dharma right now, it is not the 4 elements that govern you, but you who can make use of these elements. If you understand this well, then whether you go or you stay, you will be free. To my way of thinking, there is nothing to be despised. You may say you love the sacred, but sacred is nothing but a name. Students turn to Mount Wutai and seek Manjushri And Manjushri, in Japanese, Manju, underline Manjushri. We'll go over this later, one of the main bodhisattva figures. And seek Manjus there. Such students are mistaken from the start. There is no Manjushri on Mount Wutai. Do you want to know the Bodhisattva Manjushri? He is our own activity right now, at all times unchanging, constant without a single moment of doubt. This is the living Manjushri, or Manju. The brilliance of one instant of non-differentiation on your part. Wubie, I think, is the Chinese for this word, non-differentiation. Mubetsu, or maybe mubetsu, something like that. On your part, this on all occasions and in all places is the true samantabhadra. Samantabhadra in Japanese is Fugen. Chinese Fujian or something like that. Underline this. We'll go over who this Bodhisattva is in class. Samantabhadra, Fugen. Bodhisattva Fugen. The one instant of thought in which you or yourself unfetter your bonds and are emancipated wherever you go. This is becoming one with Avalokitesvara. Okay, underline this. This is Yuima, I think. But I'll look this up again. I've forgotten some of the names of these bodhisattvas and put a description in the description to this video. Together, these three are both hosts and companions, and when they appear together and at the same time. The one is at once the three, and the three are at once the one. If you understand this, then for the first time you will be qualified to read the Sutras. Okay, the canonical texts of Buddhism are the Sutras, as you know. The master addressed the assembly, quote, "Students today must have faith in themselves and must not seek things on the outside." Okay, underline this. Do not seek things on the outside. Seek them within. Okay, this internalism is a key feature of Zen Buddhism, especially. Do not seek to attain enlightenment through the sutras, through outer rules, through convention, through ritual, and so forth, but rather do so by seeking what is within. Is one of the main messages of this essay. The master addressed the assembly. Students today must have faith in themselves and must not seek things on the outside. Don't take what someone else had said and on the basis of it make judgments on what is false and what is true. Even if they be the sayings of patriarchs and Buddhas, they are no more than written traces. Some people fasten on to some phrases of the past, or fixing on something with both an obvious and a hidden meaning, allow doubts to arise, and then staggering in surprise, rush madly about asking questions, and end up completely confused. Resolute fellows, do not spend your days in idle talk, arguing with a one-track mind about landowner and thief, good and bad, sundry pleasures and almsgiving. Here I make no distinction between monk and layman. Just let anyone at all come, and I will discern him at once. No matter from where he comes, any words he may have to say will be nothing but a dream and an illusion. On the other hand, he continues, when I see a person who has reached a state of understanding, I see the mysterious principle of the many Buddhas. The state of the Buddhas cannot of itself proclaim, I am the state of the Buddhas. The follower of the way, depending on nothing, comes forth himself, resplendent in the state of his understanding. If someone comes forth and asks me about seeking the Buddha, I meet him on the basis of the state of purity. If someone comes forward and asks me about the Bodhisattva, I meet him on the basis of the state of compassion. If someone comes forth and asks me about Bodhi of Bodhisattva, Bodhi, I meet him on the basis of the state of purity and mystery. If someone comes forward and asks me about Nirvana, or Nihang in Japanese, I meet him on the basis of the state of calmness and quiet. Okay, Nihang in Nirvana in the original Sanskrit means the extinguishing of the flame. This is the state that we are all supposed to be striving for, this liberation from the cycle of rebirth, birth and rebirth, the cycle of samsara. Liberation from that is The word for that is originally meant just the extinguishing of a flame. If someone comes forward and asks me about nirvana, I meet him on the basis of the state of calmness and quiet. Although there are countless differentiations in the states, men themselves are not different. Therefore it is said, the form, the shiki, the se, appears in accordance with the thing, just as the moon in the water. And there's a footnote about this. This is a quotation from the Sutra of the Golden Light. And then the final paragraph here. Followers of the way, if you wish to attain what is truly so, you must be resolute, and then for the first time you can attain it. If you vacillate, you will gain nothing. A cracked jar won't do for a storing ghee. A person of great capacity is not deluded by other men. If he makes himself master in all circumstances, then any place he stands will be the true one. No matter who comes along, do not accept anything that he says. An instant of doubt on your part, and a demon will steal into your mind, just as doubt on the part of even a bodhisattva will give an opening to the demon of birth and death. Just stop your thoughts and do not seek things on the outside. Penetrate whatever comes before you. Have faith in your own activity right now. There is no other thing. An instant of thought in your mind produces the three worlds, and circumstances serve to obscure the environment and turn it into the six dusts. So the six dusts are sight, sound, smell, taste, thought, and idea. These are the things that cloud the mind. What are you lacking in your immediate functioning at this very moment? In one instant you enter into purity, enter into defilement. Enter the palace of Maitreya. So again, Maitreya, we'll go over that in class. I'll put a description below. Enter the palace of Maitreya. Enter the three-faceted world. This is a reference to a passage in the Kegon-kyo. Kegon-kyo, or Flower Garden Sutra. Kegon-kyo is the Japanese reading of Huayang-jing. Enter the three-faceted world, and everywhere you travel, you see that all things are nothing but empty names. End sermon. Okay, there's a lot to discuss here in this sermon that he gives. We'll go over it in class and discuss some of the finer points, and that is all for now. Goodbye.